the field in Castro's hands, and he's going immediately. Gets a good jump there over Green, and is pulling away. He is gapping early, even moving over to try to break up any sort of slipstream or help that inside line, making sure Green has his hands full coming into T1.
Be your chance. Did Jason give Antonio just a little bit of a slow up? It doesn't look like it. Antonio down to the inside. Hopefully going to be able to make this move. Oh, that was close.
Soto both coming very hot with a head of steam. Plava going up to try to move out of the way and give up the slipstream.
Here comes Gilliland.
Slow down. Gilliland coming in, going to try to challenge for this podium. They're going to go too wide.
Oh, no!
Oh, Gilliland and Plava come together. Gilliland's going to come back across the line in 4th place.
Quite going to get there. There's a little bit of a lock up there from the 46
goodness.
car. He's gone deep.
Ooh, I don't know how everybody was able to get through that. That could have been absolute tears for that front runner.
I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes.
That was the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you
It
know,
is.
life sucks sometimes, and we need
Yes.
the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not gonna go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new
Conspiracy
content.
confirmed.
But
Yes.
but
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome to Season 4 of 2024 for the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. We have an awesome schedule this season, a grid full of racers looking to win races and championships, all in race cars that can put on some great shows everywhere they go. And today, this brand new season begins. My name is Ron Maunz, subbing in for Randall McGrew this week, with Adam Thompson joining me in the commentary booth and serving as our producer for today's broadcast. Now, to kick this season off, we're at Snetterton in the UK, a track that, despite being quite flat, flatter than a pancake some would say, it is still a wild ride in all sorts of race cars, the SRFs being no different. I've always found this track to be an absolute riot to drive around, so to pass this off to you, Adam, I want to ask you what you think about this track.
Well, I really don't know, Ron. I hate to say that I don't really know this track that well, so this is going to be an interesting one for me, to say the least. But you know, it'll be good. It'll be good. We're ready for it. And in the YouTube chat, Guido, my man, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you in chat. But yeah, I'm excited and kind of looking at what's been happening here in the practice session. Very surprised by Jason Green and how quick he's going.
Oh yeah, Green is always fast in the Spec Racer Fords, and this season opener proving to be no different. As it stands, we're in the midst of a qualifying session right now, and while we are in this qualifying session, a tick over the halfway mark, I think we'll ride on board with somebody and give you a tour around this wonderful racetrack. I remember driving this track in Project Cars 2 many moons ago. It's a fun drive, and it all starts on this start-finish straightaway. A little kink towards the end of it, but nevertheless, these drivers careening their way into turn number 1, a whole lot of grass runoff area on the outside, and in real life, you may try and avoid hitting some sheep if you go too far off the track. Then you go through that corner, which really has 2 parts to it. Then you head into turn number 2, the hairpin of Montreal. That is a good over overtaking opportunity and a whole lot of cars, but be aware of the killer curbs. That anti-cut curb on the inside is more of an urban plateau than anything else. But then you head through the infield section into turn number 3 of Palmer. Really nice to have some corner names around this racetrack. A little bit long in nature, trying to carry the speed and make sure you don't get a slowdown on corner exit. Then you have a small little flat out blast heading your way into turn number 4. Good overtaking opportunity as well. However, if you don't get it done convincingly, you're going to be in a lot of trouble heading into the next few corners, which come quickly in succession. After a small little flat out blast, you head into turn 5. Then you got to get on the left-hand side of the racetrack and set yourself up to turn 6 and 7. 2 more corners around this racetrack, 2 very different as well. Slow, then fast. Then you have a long, feeling like it's never-ending right-hander of turn number 8. That is Williams right there, and thankfully kept it on the racetrack. Did Nazelli, who we're riding on board with right now. Then you've got this long back straightaway, the Bentley straightaway, before you go under the bridge and head into Brundle and Nelson corner. That's Brundle right there, turn number 9, and here's Nelson, turn number 10. That's a section where we can see some cars end up in low Earth orbit if they hit that curb in the wrong way. However, thankfully, these drivers aren't going to deal with that, having to deal with some sort of stoppage there. So that's going to sing a small little hymn. Trying to find a driver that's on the track right now. Shows you how challenging Nelson is of turn number 10. A driver just stalled down. Was like, no thank you, don't want any parts of that. Speaking of, this qualifying session is very close. Alice Pleva is currently tied with a driver that's around him, that being Wilson Brezarosco. We'll touch on the qualifying order as it stands at the moment in just a little bit. And as we look to try and find another driver around this track, we're riding on board with Panero. Touch on the challenge of Williams, turn number 8 as well. Yet again, we saw Nazelli run wide. If you pick up a slowdown there, you're going to be in a lot of trouble going down this long Bentley straightaway, which is the longest flat-out blast on this track by far, and one of the only holdouts on this configuration, which has been around for a while but hasn't changed terribly much over the years that Snetterton has been an operational circuit in the world of motorsports. And here we go, back with the impromptu track guide, riding on board with Panero, heading through bomb hole of turn at number 11. Small little crater in the earth, and the British race fans back in the day were like, yeah, just pave over it, we'll be fine. And that is a wonderful corner around this racetrack. Then you got to deal with Coram, turn at number 12. Feels like it never ends. That is a very long corner and a very challenging corner. Then you got to get slowed up for turn number 13. Lucky number turn 13 with Murray's to bring this lap to a close. And that is possibly the longest track guide of Snetterton ever done in iRacing broadcasting history. And some people at this point may be hoping that I shut the hell up soon.
Well, I sure was, and I am glad to be talking here for just a little while, Ron. I'm kidding. I love you, buddy. But yes, looking here at Brad Cathcart, green in the first sector, yellow in sector 2. See what he can do on this lap right now. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to improve much, but look at those intervals. I mean, very, very close between a lot of these drivers. 2 1,000ths of a second between Cathcart and Monty. I mean, it's just very close back there. Pleva and Brezarosco running the exact same lap times, and Brezarosco is only 9 1,000ths of a second off of Gardini at the moment.
Yeah, this qualifying session is just incredibly tight at the moment. Looking up and down the running order, I think the biggest gap that we have in the top 30 is Josh Justice, who's 0.6 of a second back of Miles, who's currently qualified in 23rd. As it stands at the moment, it's Nazelli on that provisional pole. Some drivers doing some rally off-track excursions throughout this lap. A little bit longer than you may realize. I mean, 2-minute lap times. You gotta run a very long track to get something like that. It is nearly 3 miles, 2.97 to be a bit more precise. A whole lot of challenge packed into this small little racetrack in the UK countryside. We're following some more drivers as this qualifying session comes to a close. A packed grid of Spec Racer Fords to bring this season to a beginning. We've also got a fantastic schedule of races to look forward to. In 1 week's time, the series is going to be back in the UK at Caldwell Park. That's another great track, a new addition to iRacing as well. And we're going to be heading off to Sunshine, California, sunny Southern California for Laguna Seca. Actually, I guess it would probably be more closer to Middle California. My geography skills failing me yet again. Going to be heading to the revamped Zolder right after that. The Charlotte Roval is going to play host to another round this season. Then we're going to be heading to the big one, the Nürburgring, combined with the Grand Prix and the Nordschleife. That's going to be a great race on October the 20th. Daytona as well. Then we head to tracks like Road Atlanta, Mugello, Tsukuba, Monza, Suzuka, and Oran Park to bring this season to a close. Got an awesome schedule of races to look forward to this season. An awesome race to look forward to as well. Pinero, the Italian, shooting his way up to second. Well done.
It was well done. We had just gotten to that at the end of his lap. I didn't realize he ran a purple third sector. So Pinero, a guy that I haven't covered yet, doing well. I don't know if you've ever covered him, Ron, but this is the first time I've seen him around in Spec Racer Ford. And great job. Jason Green was very quick in practice, I mentioned. He's a little bit off the pace right now, though, here in qualifying, which is surprising to knowing how quick he was in practice. Ryan Ware setting all 3 green sectors here. See how Ryan does. Looking like a very good lap.
Yeah, this is looking like a good lap. A cooker from the driver, the number 66 car. He rounds his way around turn number 12, the never-ending bend, before he heads through Murray's a 13.
Oh,
I think, yeah, he may have ran a little bit wide there. We'll see if that affects his chances of improving in this qualifying session. Currently qualified 16th at the moment. Is it a shot up the running order for the driver of the number 66? It is a 203.180. That shoots him all the way up to 9th. A big improvement for the driver of the 66.
it was. I mean, a lot of these drivers now are starting to get some pretty good lap times in here. Joshua Soto, look at this. Watch out, Joshua Soto. 3 green sectors. It looks like Miles is going to have a good sector here. Is he going to be able to get enough on it? No. Let's see what happens with Joshua Soto, though. Looks very fast. No, it only puts him up into 11th place. Look out, though. Aleix Pleva sitting back here in 12th. We're not used to seeing him this far back.
Alice Pleva is usually running up towards the north end of the field. Won the last race of Season 3 in the Spec 1 category. Won it overall as well. Right now, Pleva is starting to struggle a little bit. Is it going to be an improvement from the driver of the number 46 car as he goes onto the start-finish straightaway for what's going to be one of the final times in this qualifying session? Less than 45 seconds left in this 20-minute-long session before we bear ourselves for a 40-minute-long race coming up later on this afternoon. Pleva currently qualified in 12th. See if there's any sort of improvement for him between now and the end of the session. Following some more drivers, this is Claudio Gradini behind the wheel of the 33 car, stuck behind Maurizio Nazelli in the 44. So the 2 drivers negotiating their way, about to head their way into turn number 3 in just a couple of moments' time. Turn number 3 being Palmer. Full transparency, folks, I had my iRacing track map very small when I was doing that impromptu track guide, so most of the corner names just seem like out of focus hieroglyphics, but nevertheless, Pleva trying to enjoy that slipstream of the cars a little bit farther up the road. I don't believe he's close enough to get a big gap, but again, these Spec Racer Fords drift so well. Adam, you saw this last season. These cars almost act like there's a shop vac attached to the back of them.
They really do. I think this is a great position for Aleix to be in here. We haven't seen any of his sector times at the bottom or any of his split times yet. They will pop up here soon, hopefully. Getting a little close to the end of the lap now. Flavio Andalo has no time set. Sets a green first sector, obviously, because it's his first lap out on track. Looking down, trying to see if Aleix is going to be able to grab some of this slipstream. I think he is just close enough. This might be a very good position for Aleix Pleva to be in. Claudio Gardini, green first sector, yellow second sector. Aleix, no, 2 yellow sectors. This is not good. Claudio Gardini, though, may have a chance. He had a bit of slipstream help. See what he can do.
Coming towards that start-finish straightaway in just a couple of moments' time for Gardini. Is it going to be an improvement, or is he going to have to settle for a P17 qualifying position? As it stands currently, he'd be starting behind the S2 pole sitter of Joshua Wilkie, our colleague here at SMB, with Jeff Frischer currently the highest qualifying Masters driver. But coming to take the checkered flag in this qualifying session for Claudio Gradini. Is it an improvement for the driver of the 33? Does he improve on that 203.4? Yes, he does, to a 203.1. That shoots Gardini all the way up inside the top 10, displacing Ryan Ware, who now shoots his way down into 10th. But well done from Gardini in the dying stages of this qualifying session to find an improvement. Another driver that seems to be improving is Flavio Andalo in the 145 car. Ran a little bit wide, it must be said, coming out of turn number 4, now through Hamilton of 5. Doesn't have a whole lot of time left to go, does this driver, but they are pushing it. set a green first sector time. We'll see what he does in the second sector with that small off-track excursion. Heading out of 5, that wasn't going to help him heading out of turn number 7. So going on to the Bentley straightaway for Flavio Andallo. We'll see what the middle sector time is, but I think he may have thrown it away with that mistake coming out of 7.
I think it might be a little bit slower. We'll see. It is green, so he is not the fastest on the track, but he is the fastest for him, and it makes sense because his last lap time was not very good at all. He still says he hasn't set one, so he may have had an off track. This is what Flavio Andallo needs right here. He has got to go. Has to get this done. Looking at Antonio Reese, though, back there in 11th place right now where he's qualified, is now behind Flavio. We'll go on board with him after Flavio completes this lap. Were those off-track excursions actually off-tracks? Will this count? Flavio Andallo, another great driver. So this is, oh, he does go into the pit, so he did have an off-track. This is now Antonio Reese's chance, the last driver on track right now to try to finish his lap. Two yellow sectors. No, he cannot get it done. That is the end of qualifying.
Was not able to improve on his time, was not able to move up into the pole for the Masters category. Instead, it's going to be Jeff Frischer, the driver who won the Masters Championship 1 season ago, grabbing the pole in that class. But here is the starting grid as the German Maurizio Nazelli in the number 44 car starting this race from the pole. He is always quick. From my previous time covering this series, he would always start towards the back and just cut his way through the field like a hot knife through butter, pulling off double-digit overtakes whenever he gets the opportunity. But now that he's qualifying, he is going to be a force to be reckoned with this season. Joining him on the front row is going to be the Italian of Marco Pinero. Jason Green going to start in 3rd, the reigning champion in Spec 1. Yanchi Lin going to be starting in 4th. Sol Al-Shawit, Al-Shutwi. Sol Al-Shutwi. We were trying to get his pronunciation correct before the start of the broadcast. Let me do that one again. Sol Al-Shutwi going to be starting this race in 5th. Bobby West going to be starting alongside in P6. Jeff Frischer coming into the season as the reigning Masters champion, going to be starting in P7. The top starting master, Hayden Bramley, going to be starting in 8th. Claudio Gradini in 9th, and Ryan Ware in the number 66 car going to round out your top 10.
In 11th, you've got Antonio Reese with Joshua Soto not getting a great lap time, but we know how quick Joshua Soto is when it comes to race trim, starting in 12th place. Aleix Pleva, another driver that we did not expect to see this far back, starting in 13th with Simon Mayer in 14th. Jörg Monty back there in 15th, a long way away from Jeff Fritcher and Antonio Reese. Gonna have some work to do if he wants to catch up to his Masters buddies, with Daniel Wood starting in 16th. Joshua Wilkie, baby! Wilkie back at it again in Spec 2, starting in 17th place, but on the pole for the Spec 2 drivers with where am I? There I am. With Thor Tulo starting in 18th, Brad Cathcart in 19th, Wilson Bruiser Roscoe, the next Spec 2 driver, rounding out your top 20.
And looking outside the top 20, we got Adam Bradshaw in 21st, Jason Perry starting alongside in 22nd, Tom Gradwell going to be starting in 23rd, Larry Miles, the Canadian, in 24th, Joshua Justice, a real-life Spec Racer Ford driver, going to be starting this race in 25th, Jim Brewster in P26, Andrew Love in 27th, Paolo Brema in 28th, Michael McConnell in 29th, Paul Jackson in 30th, Gary Wolbald in 31st, Jason Grider in 32nd, Michelle Vaglini, there we go, second try as a charm, going to be starting this race in 33rd, Wayne Buttermore in 34th, Flavio Andallo, who did not set a qualifying time, going to be starting this race in 35th, my apologies, with Andre Favini starting in 36th, the Swedish driver, not going to be the last starter, instead Russ Telker, David Tomasky in 38th, and Christian Tracy going to round out the 39 cars that we have set to take the starting grid for this opening race of Season 4 of 2024 here for the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors, only broadcasted here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. And if you want to stay tuned for all of the action we have here on SMB, remember to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a single thing from all of the action from both the Formula V, Formula Ford, and Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors series. I've had the privilege of commentating this series in the past. I just did the Formula Fords earlier on this afternoon. I did the Formula Vs yesterday. The Weekend Warriors are some of the best racing action that we have on the entirety of iRacing, and certainly on the entirety of YouTube. It gives you more of a reason to tune in and follow this series, which is about to start in just a couple of moments' time. The green flag going to be out for Maurizio Nazelli, and he will lead them to green in the number 44 car. Gets a very good start. Marco Pinero, meanwhile, feeling some pressure from the reigning Spec 1 champion of Jason Green. They're going to be side by side, heading off into turn number 1. And look at Yanchi Lin as well, pretty much uncontested, running in fourth. Meanwhile, they got Big Wreck hang through turn number 1. Lots of drivers spinning around, bodywork flying all the way up in the air with some front nose clips of a Spec Racer Ford race car, probably destined to end up on eBay by the time this broadcast is said and done. I can see Joshua Justice involved in that, Russ Telker, who are following in a 260 with a whole lot of damage, Andrew Love, Wayne Buttermore, Paolo Bremo with some air conditioning mods made to a lot of these Spec Racer Fords. Not sure what in the world happened there, Adam, heading through turn number 1, but a game changer for a lot of these drivers. Josh Justice popping a wheelie. What in the hell happened there?
I have no idea what was going on with Joshua Justice's car there. I have no idea what we just saw. There are 40 drivers on this grid almost. This is nuts. I cannot get through everything soon enough. So we will get back to that as quick as possible. Jason Green now, though, sitting in second place, doing a great job. I don't know what happened. Hayden Bramley back here in third. Looks like we've got Pinero has fallen back into P2. Hayden Bramley up 5 positions. Sorry, Pinero is in P4, back 2 positions. And then we're going through here. A lot of these drivers have lost a position. It looks like Bramley just got a mega start. This is nuts right now. We have a lot of drivers that we thought were going to contend that got caught up in that initial incident.
Yeah, I think we have a whole lot of replays to try and get our attention on, because that was a lot going on. I think, God, I don't even know where to start in terms of that. I guess we'd probably take a look at the incident and see some of the other things that happened. And I think it was just some 3-wide action heading into turn number 1 that just ended in tears. We're following Brad Cathcart, who seemed to be in the middle of that in the 905 car. He was actually on the inside line, and that was spinning in front. That was Antonio Reese involved in that in the 914. So the driver who we thought could have contended for the pole in the Masters category, running into some trouble early on. Brad Cathcart, another Masters driver, getting caught up in the middle of that, with Reese being the one that got spun around. I'm curious if it was just some 3-wide action gone desperately wrong. Yeah, a little bit of contact from Ellis Pleva, it must be said, and then you could see the whole field piling in. Who was that? Looked like they were caught between ascending to the heavens and descending to the depths of hell. That was bizarre. Sure who that was. You see Andrew Love with some significant damage. Larry Miles thankfully getting away with that incident fairly scot-free in the number 30 car. Lots of the cars in this field already have some paint chips knocked into them. I'm curious if we could possibly look on the slow motion broadcasting gyrosphere camera, whoever that was, that got a little bit of airtime. And also Josh Justice, who had an alien encounter, it looked like, heading through turn number 2. But nevertheless, looking at the driver still running incident free at the moment. Running some trouble already.
Yep, here we go, watching Jim Brewster now. He is caught up right in the middle of this, so this is going to be no good for Brewster when all this starts to go south. Nowhere to go in front of him. Plows into Antonio Reese, and it is just carnage now at this point. We're going to go ahead and go on board with Tom Gradwell as well. See it from his view. Doesn't seem like he was able to make it through. Almost made it. Tried to get to the right-hand side here. He saw what was going on. I mean, you cannot see what's happening in front of you. Look at all these cars. All of a sudden, there's, excuse me, shit flying everywhere. And there goes Gradwell.
Oh, boy. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I was going to say a joke, but I thought better of it. Tom Gradwell getting a whole lot of airtime as a result of all that. And look at that, the 260 car coming in, overtaking about 5 or 6 race cars that were slow heading into turn number 2. But nevertheless, most of the field getting involved in that fustercluck, shall we call it, heading into turn number 1. Meanwhile, the drivers at the north end of the field, they're very happy that they want nothing to do with that madness heading through the first corner on the first lap of this first race of the season. It's still Nazelli leading over reigning Spec 1 champion Jason Green. That gap already to about 2.2 seconds, so Maurizio Nazelli, the German, putting on a pretty good show at the moment. He doesn't have the fastest lap of the race currently. That honor goes to Marco Pinero, who's involved in a championship fight just a couple of seasons ago, running in third currently. Not terribly far away from Jason Green as well, so we could see that battle begin to heat up with a small little gap between themselves and Yanchi Lin, who currently occupies 4th, and Al Shutwi rounding out your top 5. But looking through this field, spread out a little bit more than we probably had in mind in the early stages of this race, Adam. But considering the drama that we just saw, all the stuff flying everywhere, shall we say, heading through turn number 1. It's not too surprising that the field is broken up, and in all honesty, I think it's a miracle that they're as close together as they are.
Yeah, this was. And speaking of stuff flying everywhere, I'm sorry we still are watching Maurizio Nizelli. My Roomba just decided to suck up some type of cardboard and was making a massive noise behind me that I had to go get fixed. But yes, we are back, and there are things happening. It looks like Jason Green is now starting to come under threat from Pinero, and this is not good because Nizelli is just checked out. Green's got no draft help, and Pinero will be on him and past him in no time.
Yeah, I think this is going to end in an overtake in the not-too-distant future, but knowing my luck, though, I just said it, it's probably going to end in an accident in the next few moments. These drivers very comfortable with each other. They have driven alongside each other for numerous seasons at this point. That's the thing when it comes to these Weekend Warrior series, either the Formula Vs, the Formula Fords, or the Spec Racer Fords. You've always got a consistent cast of characters, and you absolutely love to see it. One of the cast of characters who's been ever since Season 2 of 2024 is our very own Josh Wilkie. He's currently running in 11th at the moment, leading in the Spec 1 category. However, he's got a fight on his hands right in front of him. We could ride on board with him. We'll see the side-by-side action going on involving Bramley, Ware, and Fritcher. The driver's running in 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Wow, that was
a... Maybe gotta get involved in that. That was a block.
Oh my goodness, how did they get through that? How did Bramley stay away from Fritcher as Fritcher comes flying across the track? And that has just brought Wilkie right into play, and I don't think this is what Wilkie wants to go on in front of him. He's already dodged one wreck at the beginning of the race. If these guys wreck, he's going to have to dodge another one.
I think he's going to try and just avoid all of this chaos. And in all honesty, I can't necessarily blame him for trying to do that. We saw in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors earlier on with some drivers coming into the pits early just to try and avoid the absolute pandemonium that was going around them. I have a very distinct feeling that one of these drivers is just going to be like, nope, I want out of this. I want zero parts of this.
Oh!
I want zero parts of the drama going on. I want zero parts of the off track that Fritcher just had. That was coming through turn number 6 and 7, went off the circuit, and hasn't cost him the lead in the Masters category as the next Masters driver is all the way back to Brewster in P18. However, Fritcher losing out on a whole lot of spots overall, and bearing in mind with these Weekend Warrior series, the drivers aren't classed and they aren't scored by class. They're scored by their overall finishing position, so if Fritcher was able to hold on to that top 10 spot, it would have been a very strong showing for him, but with his mistake heading into 6 and 7, that's going to take him out badly.
Well, that was Bobby West in front of him. I think he got scared. He saw Bobby West get on the brakes. He just locked it up to try to avoid Bobby, and that is what happened. Lost a few positions there, but everybody is still driving for now. Michelle in the chat saying, what exactly happened to Josh Justice's car to make him do a wheelie? I was trying to find a camera angle somewhere. I think there was probably a piece of one of the front ends of one of the at least 15 cars that got involved in that incident that probably got lodged underneath Justice's car. But when he backed up, I didn't see anything, and then he was able to drive away. So that is a great question, Michelle.
Yeah, at this point in time, I'm starting to consider if that was some UFO activity going on involving Josh Justice, but nevertheless, some side-by-side action involving Wilkie and Gardini heading into turn number 2. It looked like our buddy was going to try and get a move done to slip his way up into 9th. However, he wasn't close enough heading into the braking zone. That's a real tricky corner to try and get a move done because as much as it is one of the heaviest braking zones around this racetrack, it's also such a tight corner. I mean, the radius of that turn, pretty much from one end to another of a playing card. So it's a very tight corner for these Spec Racer Ford race cars. Very tricky trying to keep it going in a straight line and keep it on the racing surface. So as much as it is a tantalizing opportunity, it's also really tricky to try and get that move done. Doubly so if you're side-by-side with another competitor, because they could just bully you off and have you hit that inside killer turtle curb, sausage curb, whatever we're calling them. I refer to them as urban plateaus, but nevertheless, these drivers still battling hard and running as aggressively as they possibly can. Zelli is certainly running aggressively, 3.1 seconds in front of Marco Pinero right now. Pinero not very far away from this man, Yanshi Lin. Yanshi got a move done on Jason Green. Actually dropped down the running order a little bit. It's now Pinero and Lin running in 2nd and 3rd, holding on to those final podium positions, at least for now. Hey, these Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors races are always quite chaotic, and if Yanchi Lin takes up any more of that rally action he just did coming out of Bomb Hole, I feel like he may lose out on a spot to green.
Yeah, he might, but who might be losing a spot here quickly is Fritcher on Wilkie. Wilkie is right back on the back of Fritcher again. Obviously, Fritcher did get back by Wilkie after that off-track excursion, but Wilkie is not letting him go. The problem is, you've got a Lace Plava sitting right behind you, and if you're Joshua Wilkie, that is not someone you want to see in your mirror right now. Thor Tulo back there as well. Claudio Gardini, all of these pro drivers, very, very skilled. While Wilkie's trying to make a pass on Fritcher, Plava almost went for the move on Wilkie. This could end not well, but everyone's got it so far. We got Dudu in the chat saying seems like an easy win for Mauricio. So if Mauricio crashes, Dudu, this is on you. Oh my goodness, Plava with an absolute move on the inside of Wilkie there.
Well, that was a dive from Alice Pleva, but seemed to stick as now Wilkie is fighting for his life to try and remain in P11 in front of Claudio Gradini, but well done from Alice Pleva. I feel like we may have to ride on board with him just to see his perspective and all of that, because that was one of the best moves we've seen thus far this race, and maybe one of the best moves we see all season long. He faked towards the outside and then dove down the inside, was barely alongside, made a little bit of contact, it must be said, so trying to the old boot scoot and boogie was Pleva to the back of Wilkie's race car, so a little bit of fisticuffs breaking out, heading through turn number 2, but still well held from Wilkie to try and remain in that position with how sideways that Spec Racer Ford was coming out of that corner. We're going to follow Josh's perspective without all this. Riding on board with a cockpit cam, and you can see him with a big boot. Oh,
what
boy, you
save.
can hear those tires screeching because they're going so sideways.
That was a save and a half by Joshua Wilkie. Well done there. I'm sure Plava did not make any friends on that overtake, but it doesn't matter. Wilkie knows who he's battling, and Plava is not one of them. He is still in the race. Looking down, you've got Bruce Orozco at P16. Got a few places to make up for that Spec 2 win, but right now, Wilkie has a bunch of drivers in between him and Bruce Orozco. This is going to be a great points haul for Wilkie if he can keep it up. Speaking of great points hauls, Jeff Fritcher is absolutely running away with the Masters win right now. Jim Brewster sitting in 18th position with Fritcher all the way up at 9th. Unbelievable drive by Fritcher so far. Wan Chi Lin, though, is still under attack from Marco Pinero and Jason Green and Sewell. I don't know where Sewell came from, but he is now all of a sudden part of this battle.
Now, Shutwee is the back car of this 4-car pack, running just barely inside the top 5. This is a battle for the best of the rest at this point, with Nazelli entirely checking out. And speaking of drivers having some very good shows, Andre Favini up 19 spots where he started in this race. Well done from the Swede to put on the drive that he has thus
I'm
far.
so sorry.
Antonio Reese.
I've got to cut you off, Ron. I'm going to say this because this is the funniest thing I've seen. So, talking about Joshua Wilkie's save, Guido in the chat came through and said, yes, great save, great hand job. That does not translate to American that well, Guido. Just saying, unless you meant to, and I'm pretty sure you did. So, bravo to you for making me giggle there. But yes, go ahead, Ron.
Well, broadcasting tends to make you do some very odd stuff. Oh boy. Anyways, I don't even know. We're just gonna quickly and abruptly move on. God, I can't even speak at this point. Daniel Wood came down in the pits not terribly long ago. Antonio Reese also came with him. Boy, I should have chose some better phraseology when saying that line, but those two went down pit lane just a couple of moments ago. Of course, Antonio Reese got involved in that incident at the very beginning, so maybe fixing some damage on that 914 race car. Daniel Wood, meanwhile, I don't believe he ran into any sort of trouble, so I think that may have just been an honest-to-God call to come down pit lane, and doing it so early on. Actually, I say so early on into this race. We're nearly coming up to 15 minutes on the clock of this 40-minute race. So honestly, I think we may start seeing a decent chunk of the field come down pit lane.
I think we are, yes. The first wave of pit stops have already been done. Obviously, Antonio Reese is going to be the one that gets that. Guido's still in the chat. I'm sorry. Antonio Reese is still going to be the one that gets that first pit stop. He always does it. So normally, you know, when Stevie Ray is in these races, Stevie pits, they're open. I think Antonio has taken that away from Stevie at this point. If Antonio pits, they're open. The thing is, Antonio pits very, very early. So very interesting calls from Antonio. And again, like you said, drivers that went down with him, I think they're starting to figure out what Antonio's moves are here, and it's working. Thortulo in the pits. Thortulo out of the race.
Oh, boy, yeah, Thortulo running into some difficulties. Not sure what happened there. May have been some sort of connection issue, possibly. Adam Bradshaw's also left the session as well, so maybe a two-car incident there. Actually, I believe Bradshaw may have gone a piece in that opening lap Schmazel, so that may have taken him out of the race earlier on. But Tulo running into some difficulties, has not had a good Sunday, has the driver. The number 90 car had a fantastic Saturday and came oh so close to winning the opening race of the Formula V Weekend Warriors season. However, for Thor in the Spec Racer Fords and the Formula Fords for that matter, things not going to plan. Hopefully you can find that replay to see exactly what went wrong for the driver of the number 90 car. Of course, with 13 corners around this racetrack, plenty of opportunities to make a mistake, and for the Brit heading through turn number 1, this may have been a big issue from him. Looks fairly clean thus far. Fairly clean heading into 2. Oh, locked it up big time, trying not to run into the back of Simon Mayer. And then I think he just decided to call it quits. Yes, he did.
Yep, I don't blame him after what has happened this weekend to Thor. Obviously, you've got many more weekends to come. Drop weeks, all of that come into effect. Remember, this league has 4 drop weeks, so anything can happen for some of these drivers, which is a great thing to allow the competition to stay close up front and in the points. Speaking of up front, that gap has come down quite substantially over the last lap from Wanqi Lin to Maurizio Nizelli. It is now under 2.5 seconds. The last time I checked, it was 3.2, Ron.
Yeah, and last time by, that was pretty much where all the damage was done. It was 0.3 of a second slower was Maurizio Nizelli compared to Yanqi Lin behind. Nizelli at a 2:03.7 and Yanqi Lin at a 2:03.4. However, he was actually one of the slowest of the 3 drivers that were right behind him. It was Yanqi at a 2:03.4. Marco Pinero and Jason Green, meanwhile, there were only 1/100th of a second between the two of them lap time-wise. There you can see little time between the both of those drivers. Yeah, both in the 2:03.26 territory. And Al Shutwi right behind was not terribly far off Yanqi Lin's pace either. So I think at this point in time, Nizelli may be feeling the burn. He may be feeling some pressure, which would be the first time he's felt some pressure so far in this race. Yanqi Lin, Pinero, Green, and Al Shutwi, if they start to work together, they're going to be a huge thorn in the side for Nizelli.
I think that conversation has already been had. Look at how straight along these drivers are. Watch this. I have a feeling we're going to see Pinero go to the inside here. No, he tries to stay behind Yanqi. He might be actually trying to push Yanqi a little bit, but they have been swapping positions and doing a great job at it. The interval now down to 2.4. This race is not over yet. Plenty of time to get up to the back of Maurizio Nizelli, and when they get there, they will be coming with a head of steam, my friend, and don't look back, Maurizio.
They're going to be flying in like a bat out of hell, and we got to keep in mind as well, we still have to worry about the pit stops in this race. I'm curious, actually thinking of this gap going down, and these drivers as well, I'm curious about fuel saving. Some of these drivers that are in the draft and haven't really thought about going for a move on Yanqi Lin, maybe they're playing that pseudo teammate role, or maybe they're just enjoying the draft, enjoying the slipstream, and enjoying better fuel numbers than the drivers a little bit farther up the road. We saw in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors broadcast earlier on this afternoon on SMB that James Berry, who ended up taking the checkered flag in that race, was able to do it just because he fuel saved and was able to spend a lot less time down pit lane compared to the driver that he jumped in front of. So maybe at this point in time, the likes of Pinero, Green, and Al Shutwi, they could be getting some fantastic fuel numbers. I'm mainly keeping my attention on Green and Al Shutwi because those two, they've been enjoying the draft throughout this entire race. Lin and Pinero, meanwhile, they're punching the biggest hole. Of course, Lin probably getting the worst fuel numbers of any of these drivers. Nizelli, meanwhile, he has not had the draft from anybody. I think the closest car in front of Maurizio Nizelli at this point would be, this would be the 5, I believe it would probably be, unless I'm very much mistaken, Wilson Plus or
Jason
Roscoe
Grider.
possibly. Jason Grider, my apologies. So Jason Grider is the next farthest car up the road. And bearing in mind, he is coming into Brundle and Nelson right about now. Meanwhile, Nazelli's halfway down the Bentley straightaway, so he's not really getting any sort of draft from the cars in front. Pinero, Green, and Al-Shukwi, meanwhile, they're getting the draft. They're getting the fuel numbers that they probably need. So as much as that gap may be going down on the racetrack, once it comes time for the pit stops, that gap may be entirely gone.
Listen to that lift by Pinero down that backstretch. Massive lift. He knows what he's doing, and I'm watching. We're going to ride on board here with Pinero for just a little while because he's lifting down the backstretch, and then he gets right up to the back bumper of Yanchi going down the front stretch. Let's see exactly what happens here, if he's close enough, and he will be for sure because the draft, Nizelli already in the pits. He knows what's happening. He tries to take an early pit stop here, get that out of the way, but I don't know if that's going to be enough. Listen to Pinero here.
Ooh, actually not too much of a lift, it must be said, heading into turn number 1, so we'll see heading into we'll see heading into some of the other corners on this racetrack. Of course, none of them are really attempting to go for an overtake. I'm curious at this point in time, with that call from Nazelli to come into the pits, will it spur some of the drivers that we're following between Yanchi Lin, Marco Pinero, Jason Green, and Sol Al-Shukwi? Will that spur them to come down pit lane? I don't think it would. I think they're very confident in the strategy that they have. And if that call from Nazelli to come into the pit spurs them to come down pit lane, I think that'll do more harm than good for them. What do you think, Adam?
Yes, these drivers right now, with them working together, they need to be on the radio. Get on the horn with everybody else around you right now and say, stay in this line. Keep working together. It was working for them. They were able to cut in about 1.5 seconds over the last 10 or so minutes. This is working. If they stay in a line right now, with all of this draft help, I believe Mauricio Nazelli may have just gotten hung out to dry. We'll see if they all decide to come into the pits together as well. That is a dangerous proposition. A lot of things can happen when you got a bunch of drivers trying to enter the pit lane at the same time, but I think this is the best bet for them right now. It is working out perfectly.
Speaking of getting hung out to dry, the rest of the Masters field has really been hung out to dry today by Jeff Frischer. He's leading that class at the moment, running in 9th over Jim Brewster, who we were briefly following. He was heading through the infield section as Brewster was in the midfield section as we saw Frischer head his way into Brundle and Nelson. But I think there may have been an off track possibly for Brewster. Is that what we're seeing right now, Adam?
Oh, yeah. There was something by Brewster, and there it is. Brewster gets it a little bit wide, and there's just nothing he can do. He gets off in the grass, and hey, Brewster, there's no grip in the grass, buddy.
Well, thankfully, there's a little bit more grip in the grass compared to what there was a few seasons ago. However, I've driven enough race cars off into the dirt to know that that's usually not a good strategy to go for. I am very much surprised that Brewster was able to get it back on the racetrack when he did, because if he didn't, he probably would have been launched into low Earth orbit. I've already seen some aerial acrobatics thus far from the Spec Racer Ford drivers, which is a little bit shocking. You'd usually expect that in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors instead of the SRFs. But nevertheless, some drivers already flying in more ways than one, and Yanchi Lin is flying at the moment, leading this field over Pinero and Green, who occupy the final podium positions. And after that terrible, no good, very bad segue, I want to ask you this in reference to that call from Nazelli to come down pit lane. I'm curious if you could follow him, Adam, because I think he's just been relegated into traffic hell behind.
Yeah, so this is a problem that Nazelli is going to face now. He is stuck now behind, no offense to Larry Miles at all. He has got a great drive going. He's actually up 10 positions, but he is stuck behind the slower driver of Larry Miles, and there's only 2 of them. That pack up front, there's 4 of them. That is all that matters. I mean, you have got that much more slipstream, punching that much of a bigger hole through the air. Those drivers up front are doing exactly, again, what they have to do. Meanwhile, Mauricio is kind of mired back here right now, still with not the greatest amount of draft help. Just one driver in the form of Larry Miles. And up to Bruiser Roscoe is almost 9 seconds.
Yeah, that is a pretty significant gap there. So Nazelli, that early call to come down pit lane, I mean, it's tough to say, really, because, you know, considering how the trajectory of his race was going, I feel like he would have, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. He was definitely caught between a rock and a hard place, to use every single analogy that we possibly can. But this front 4 fight, still running strong, still running line of stern. They have not overtaken each other in a while. They're working together, and they are whittling the laps away. Now we have about 15 minutes left to go, and really at this point, I feel like it's just going to be between Lynn, Panero, Green, and Al Shutwee. Meanwhile, I think Nazelli is going to be relegated in this fight that we see right now between Alice Pleva, Bramley, and Ware. Tight stuff heading into turn number 1. There are 2x2 heading down that start-finish straightaway not terribly long ago. And look at Bobby West in the midst of all of that as well. Who's going to prevail in this fight? Is it going to be Ware or is it going to be Pleva? Side by side now, it's going to be Ware getting a great run on that inside, but Pleva going to be having that inside line, the benefit of the inside line heading through 3, and Ware backing out of that, allowing Pleva to slot in front. Meanwhile, Hayden Bramley putting on a pretty good move to slip his way up into 7th in front of Bobby West. Also look at Jeff Frischer involved in this fight as well, and if they start to battle hard, we could see our SMB colleague Josh Wilkie, who is still leading in the Spec 2 category, we could see them start to get involved in that fight as well in the 777 car. As it stands at the moment, I think our attention is mainly on the front 4 of Lynn, Panero, Green, and Al Shutwee to see when they come down pit lane. It's already been about 5, coming up to 6-ish minutes since Nazelli made that call to come down pit lane, and his lap times aren't too bad. Last on by set at 2:03.7, but he's just stuck in traffic, still behind Miles, down in 14th. I think Nazelli, I mentioned it a few moments ago, so damned if you do, damned if you don't for the German, but oh, you gotta feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is not what Nazelli expected. I don't know if he expected these drivers to stay out as long, but when they saw Maurizio Nazelli come in, they knew they had something going here. There was a reason Maurizio came in. He saw them closing that gap. Maurizio could not do anything, and look at them still working together. And they are pulling away because you've got a battle here between Ware, Pleva, West, and Bramley, and Fritcher, and probably Wilkie soon. Jason Green in the pits, though, and that is going to turn that into 3. They're not all going in together, and Jason Green was actually at the back of that pack.
As an interesting call, yeah, he was running 3rd of that 4 cars that were running at the front. Notably from the other pack right behind, Ware and West have come down in the pits, so both of the front packs that we just had have now broken up a teeny tiny bit. I'm curious how things are going to work out for Jason Green if he gets out in front of one car, however, one car that he can quickly try and deal with. This may actually help him out a lot.
There's Nazelli
look at
right
that.
there.
Look at Nazelli.
Look
Nazelli
out.
gonna make it 3 wide. That was so close with Jason Green having to resort to the grass on the inside. Nazelli, full commitment for the driver, the number 44 car, to go in and slip his way up into 10th, dealing with both the exiting the pits Green and Miles, who was stuck in front of him for a whole lot of time. So as much as we were saying that Nazelli may have screwed himself, I don't think things have actually worked out too badly for him. I feel like Nazelli, we may need to keep talking about him even more. I mean, bearing in mind, as much as he may have gotten caught behind lap traffic, he had a 2.2 second gap when he came down pit lane. And with the drivers at the front battling, as now Panero and Lynn have swapped positions, I'm curious if this is actually going to work out for the benefit of Nazelli. That would be a shocker.
I don't think it will. I mean, you already did mention that gap was around 2 seconds when Nazelli came in. Jason Green was part of that lead pack, or that second place pack, when Nazelli came in. That gap did exactly what you thought it was going to do. It absolutely went away. Now, Green has fallen off the back of Nazelli just a little bit because he had to get around Larry Miles. But he is still close enough to catch that slipstream. And look, he is closing that gap very, very, very quickly. 8.2 seconds, or 0.82, probably down to 0.7 by the time they get to the end of this straightaway. So this is going to be very close with Jason and Maurizio. We've got Marco and Sewell now. Wan Chi Lin stays out, though. This is now not looking good for Wan Chi Lin. These two drivers coming in together. Now you're going to have a pack of drivers hunting Wan Chi Lin down. Because Wan Chi was in the front there was not much he could do. When they peeled in, he just had to keep going.
And I'm honestly shocked that Yan Chi Lin is staying out another lap while the likes of Panero and Al Shutwee decide to come down pit lane just there. Meanwhile, Fritcher, the leader in the Masters category, has come into the pits as well. Panero going to exit out in front of Al Shutwee, but I'm curious how they're going to exit out in reference to Nazelli and Green. Nazelli,
oh
he's
my
goodness! A
goodness!
whole lot of speed on the outside line. Nazelli did not get screwed. He may have gotten screwed there. That may have been some contact involving Nazelli and Al Shutwi. Heading into turn number 1, Nazelli shut the door on Al Shutwi. Heading into turn number 1. That I thought that was going to end in an absolute disaster. I don't know about you, Adam. Those two cars were oh so close. I was getting flashbacks to what happened not terribly long ago when Green decided to come down pit lane. That is still a huge source of drama. It's now Pinero and Nazelli running in P6 and P7. But as it stands at the moment, they would inherit P1 and P2. I'm curious how Yanqi Lin is still able to be out there on the racetrack, considering that he was leading that pack and probably got worse fuel numbers than the cars behind him. But maybe Yanqi Lin treating this race with a whole lot of patience and just trying to maintain his own prerogative. If he can make this strategy work, that would be a big, big upset.
Crashed by Hayden Bramley.
Man, should do well. Hayden Bramley has come down off the track, so that was coming through turn number 6 and 7, I believe. Hayden Bramley having an off track in the 0-0.
Yeah, see if we can see exactly what happened here to Hayden. This looks like it was just that, just an off track. Maybe Fritcher gets involved in this just a little bit. A bit of a mini spin there, but I don't think that's the one that we just saw when Hayden was coming back through the field quite a bit here. Here it is. Yep, this is the one. So yeah, it looks like Hayden is battling with, oh my goodness, Wilkie slams the door on Joshua Wilkie. How did Wilkie survive that? And then Bramley just goes off track.
Holy cow, that was credit where credit's due to our buddy Josh Wilkie. The fact he kept that car going in a straight line. Yanqi Lin has come down into the pits, so we're going to see how things shake out with him. I think he's going to be a sitting duck. However, Pinero and Nazelli are actually a little bit farther back. Let's see how it is.
Look at him.
Exit. Yanqi Lin, he didn't take tires. He did take fuel. However, those tires cooled off a little bit. This is a very important outlap for Yanqi Lin because it's going to decide who is going to win the opening race of this season with less than 9 minutes left on the clock. Yanqi Lin exiting the pits in front of Pinero, Nazelli, Green, and Al Shutwi. Well done from Yanqi Lin. We mentioned it a few moments ago there, Adam, about Yanqi maybe seeing the drivers coming down pit lane, just trying to stick to his own game plan, stick to his guns, and it seemed to work out well for him, as despite all of the odds being stacked against him, he's managed to go throughout this entire pit cycle with the lead. Well done from Yanqi.
Yanqi Lin did exactly what he needed to do there. Great pit stop, didn't get anything wrong. Now let's hope he's got enough fuel in the car to get to the end. I'm still getting flashbacks of yesterday. I don't know if I'm ever going to forget that. But with that being said, I want to mention that we saw Yanqi and Marco on their pit exits. They both did the exact same thing. The second they crossed that blue line and they were not going to get a black flag for an unsafe pit exit, they went straight left to slam that door on Mauricio, because Mauricio has been sending it around the outside of drivers coming out of the pits. So they did not want that to happen to them as well. And now they're working together again. And this is getting to a point where they could make this a two-car breakaway, but they really do have to work together because Mauricio Nazelli has 3 cars behind him.
Yeah, they were going to have to work together for sure if they want to have any hope of being all by themselves when it comes time to the end of this 40-minute long race. Currently have a tick over 33 minutes on the clock. This race has been so intriguing thus far. The action on track has been exciting. We've had some chaos breakout as well. However, the pit strategy has just been so intriguing. At this point, we've seen some drivers going for some interesting calls. Nazelli coming back from the brink of absolute catastrophe to end up towards the front. However, he just got a move put on him by Green. They're going to be side by side, hanging into turn number 1. Jason Green sweeping around the outside to hold off on P3. Well done from the reigning Spec 1 champion to hold off in the final podium position. Al Shutwi, meanwhile. Oh boy, that was not a word that I just said. Al Shutwi. No boy, I can't speak at this point. The racing has been so exciting. Let me try this one more time. Al Shutwi, meanwhile, 4th time's the charm. He's running in 5th, and I think if these two drivers come to blows, he's going to be a driver who's going to be crapping cotton candy when everything is said and done. For him to walk away from what I believe is his first race with this series with a podium, that would be an incredible result for the driver of the 332 car.
It will be, but I want to talk about Jason Green now. They are starting to work together, I believe, Nizelli and Green. Jason did go swooping around the outside. That was an okay move. That is an okay spot to do it. They gained a little bit of time on that because Jason did have the slipstream on Nizelli. Now, the problem is now he's losing that slipstream again, so we'll see if we see another leapfrog here going down the straightaway, but the problem is they're running out of time to get this done. Still 0.8 of a second behind. It will close a little bit. Actually, it looks like Pinero and Lynn, Pinero is now pushing Lynn down the straight. You saw that gap actually climb a little bit before they entered the corner. This is starting to look a little bit interesting, but now Green is within that 0.6 of a second range. He is so tantalizingly close to that draft.
They've also got Tomaski in the 700 car, currently running down in 28th at the moment. That is going to be some lap traffic that the front runners have to contend with between now and the end of this race. Hang their way through turn number 13 for one of the last times. That's actually Jason Perry a little bit farther up the road. Man, my eyes are not doing me any favors at this point in this broadcast. With the number 97 car going to be feeling the burn from Yanchi Lin and Marco Pinero, who are definitely going to be itching to try and get past. Meanwhile, Al Shutwi and Nizelli swap positions, with Al Shutwi now running in the 4th position. Tip-tiny broadcasters out there, never say Al Shutwi meanwhile, because you'll end up like what I did and you'll have your tongue wrapped around itself about 14,000 times. Jason Green running in the final podium position. He has closed up that gap between himself and Yanchi Lin, so we thought this was going to be a 2-car breakaway, but it's the complete opposite. It is a 3-car fight for the win in this race, and as they deal with the lapped car of Perry, they now have to deal with the 700 of Tomaski in just a couple of moments time. They will have to worry about the number 700 car between now and the end of this race, which is coming up in less than 4 minutes time. This has been a fantastic way to kick this season off from the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. And if this great racing action doesn't give you much of a reason to subscribe and hit the notification bell, I really don't know what would. We've got battles up and down the running order with Endalo and Cathcart close in 16th and 17th. They're going to be side by side heading into turn number 2. And Dallo with a whole lot of front end damage on that 145 car. The Brazilian driver running into some difficulties in the opening race of this season. But meanwhile, got a fight that we haven't touched on ever since the pit stops. The fight between Ware, Pleva, Fritcher, and West. These 4 drivers have been very close, really ever since the drop of the green flag. All of them running roughly in the same spot that they were at the very beginning. Of course, all of them not maintaining their same spots ever since the drop of the green. Ware up 4 spots, Pleva up 6, Fritcher and West, meanwhile, down 1 spot and 3 spots respectively. But the fight that we have our eyes on is the one that's coming to a crescendo between Yanchi Lin and Pinero. Gotta say, Jason Green lost touch a teeny tiny bit with them, and with that gap, that may bring Al Shutwi and Nizelli into that fight as well, as long as those two stop battling like they were doing just 1 lap ago. Both 2.5 minutes left on the clock, Adam. I really can't predict who's going to come out with the checkered flag.
I can't either. Jason's got to stay close, though. I mean, Pinero and Lynn are working together so well. Even though Jason was within 0.6, 0.7 of a second, he was still losing it down the straight between Pinero and Lynn. So Pinero and Lynn have got something worked out that they are able to hook up and then just take off with only 2 drivers. But at right now, Green is close enough. But you can see he loses that gap again. And if he is not within 2 or 0.3 of a second on the straightaway, they just start to gap him. So I don't know what's going on right now with Jason Green's car. And look, it's happening again. I don't know exactly what's going on. Jason Green's straightaway speed is not there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's some sort of aerodynamic damage on that Spec Racer Ford of his. However, he is struggling down the straightaways. Meanwhile, right behind, the fight between Ware, Fritcher, Pleva, and West has divulged into absolute craziness. There you can see Pleva and Fritcher side by side heading through turn number 4. Is it going to be Pleva holding out in this fight, or is the Masters leader going to be the one smelling like a rose when everything is said and done? I got to say, the driver running P2 in the Masters category as Pleva gets that move done. Look at West, meanwhile, trying to get that move done, heading into turn number 6. Well done from Bobby West, the Brit behind the wheel. The number 89 car came out of nowhere. Get the move done on the Masters driver. Meanwhile, right at the front, chaos has broken out with Pinero taking the lead overall, and also in the Spec 1 category, Yanchi Lin, meanwhile, slotting in second. Jason Green in third at the moment. that gap between Green and Nazelli is starting to increase a little bit more as Nazelli and we still continue to fight. So I think this may be a 3-car fight at most and a 2-car fight at least. But as these drivers round their way around turn number 13 for the second to last time, they're going to be taking a white flag in just a few moments' time. Panero is going to be the one taking that white. The real question is he going to be the one taking the checkered flag with it? Will Yanchi Lin be able to get the move done? Will these two drivers come to blows, and we could see Jason Green sneak away with the victory when everything is said and done? It certainly happened before in the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors series. It may happen here to kick this season 4 off. Right now, Nazelli, he has a fight on his hands between himself and Al Shutwee. Meanwhile, Ryan Ware running down in 6th. He's got a fight on his hands with himself, Pleva, West, and Fritzers. Actually dropped back a little bit, so this is definitely turning into a 3-horse race around this track at the moment. Pleva, meanwhile, trying to get that move done into turn number 2. They're going to be side by side. Pleva trying to maintain dominance on that inside line, making a huge
moves him out of the way.
Big contact. That was a boot, scoot, and boogie from Alice Pleva, the second time he's done that so far in this race. Meanwhile, Ware trying to fight like hell to hold on to that P7 spot with Bobby West hounding him. But right now, the fight between Panero, Lin, Green, Nazelli, and Al Shutwee is still continuing on. Those 5 cars have been oh so close throughout a decent chunk of this race. And coming on to the Bentley straightaway in just a couple of moments time for the final time in the opening race of this season. You could cover them all with a blanket. The real question is, which one is going to be the one wearing that checkered flag as a blanket? Panero weaving down the Bentley straightaway, trying to break that drift, but it's not going to be enough. Yanchi Lin closing. Going to be side by side, heading into Brundle. Yanchi Lin going to be stuck on the outside. However, you'll have the inside line heading into Nelson of 10.
They make contact!
Big contact! And look at Jason Green. Jason Green going to swipe around the both of them as the 2 play grab ass heading into turn number 10.
It's not
Jason
over,
Green
though.
Got to capitalize on that. Yeah, you're right, Adam. It's not over. Yanchi Lin going to have that inside line heading through turn number 12. It's going to be a drag race between these two, I think, before they head into turn number 13. Jason Green got that inside line. Will he be able to carry it on corner exit? Yanchi Lin and him make a little bit of contact. Yanchi doesn't get a good exit either. Look at Panero. He slipped his way up into second. It's going to be a photo finish at the end of this race. Panero and Lin, and Panero wins it when everything is said and done with the front 5 after 41 minutes of fantastic racing action here on SMB. Covered by nothing. That was just no time between all of them. That was absolutely insane towards the end of this race. The final gap between 1st and 5th.
This is not good, though. We have a wreck. Joshua Wilkie is spun out.
Oh no, Wilkie spinning from the lead in the Spec 2 category. Is this going to cost him the lead? Yes, it will. Wilson Brazarosco in the 4 car going to win it in Spec 2 when everything is said and done. Lots of late drama here from the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. And another bit of drama. Frischer lost out on the lead in the Masters category. I think he's out of fuel.
He is out of fuel.
Frischer running slow on the start-finish straightaway. He ends up losing it in the Masters category to this man, Antonio Reese, who started this race with a Spec Racer Ford ready for the junkyard. He ends up winning it when everything is said and done. We're expecting this race to be dramatic, Adam. We're expecting this race to be exciting, and we're expecting this race to throw some curveballs our way. But holy crap.
Yeah, so, I mean, just the amount of draft that happened. Obviously, Green, Oyanchi up at the front battling, and they were battling coming out of the final corner. They made contact, and it just totally destroyed their momentum going down the straightaway. Panero came out of nowhere. Green fell from 1st to 5th. Yanchi fell from 1st to 2nd. Panero comes home. Nazelli comes out of nowhere, takes P3. We didn't expect that to happen either. Unbelievable finish.
And touching back on the point that I was going to mention before we saw the spin from our SMB colleague Joshua Wilkie, heartbreak go out to the Canadian behind the wheel, the 777 car. The front 5 were separated by 0.330 of a second after 41 minutes of racing action here from the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. My voice is on the verge of giving out considering how action-packed the finish of that race was, but here are the results. When everything is said and done, Marco Panero, the Italian behind the wheel of the number 16 car, wins it. over Yanchi Lin in P2, and Maurizio Nazelli, the driver that started this race from the pole, ends up rounding out your podium in third. That's going to be the newcomer, Sol Al-Shutwi, finishing this race in fourth. Jason Green in P5, Alice Pleva in sixth, Bobby West in seventh, Ryan Ware in eighth, Daniel Wood in P9, Simon Mayer going to round out your top 10. Wilson Barzarosco in 11th, Larry Miles in 12th, Antonio Reese in 13th, Jeff Frister in 14th, Brad Cathcart rounding out your top 15. Should be noted, Wilson Barzarosco wins in the Spec 2 category, and Antonio Reese wins in Masters. And looking outside the top 15, we have Flavio Andallo, Paolo Brema finishing this race right behind him, P17, Jim Brewster in 18th, but a little bit too much WD-40 on the graphics. They're just slipping their way down the street. Paul Jackson going to end up in 19th, and Josh Wilkie with an absolute heartbreaker towards the end, going to round out your top 20.
Yes, Andrea Favini coming home 21st, with Tom Gradwell coming home in 22nd, Michael McConnell 23rd, Andrew Love, Russell Telker, Jason Perry, Michelle, David, Wayne, and Jason rounding out your top 30. Hayden Bramley comes home 31st after that spin. Claudio Gardini, Thor Tulo, Joshua Soto, Adam Bradshaw, Jorg Mani, your top 36. I'm still reading these names off a massive grid tonight. Joshua Justice, Gary Wobolt, and Christian Tracy all come home 20 laps down, decided probably after that first lap incident to go ahead and call it quits. But unbelievable. I don't know. We've got some drivers here in the interview waiting room, and you know what? We do have to interview Antonio Reese. And Ron, I'm going to give you Antonio, but before I give it to you, Antonio, did you think
good night.
You even had a chance coming down the straightaway?
No way. I never thought. I was surprised when I was crossing the finish line, and that blue car looks familiar. Then I was checking the relative box, and what now? Jeff, have no fool. Then, well, I will take it. It's my lucky day.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to take it, Antonio, when everything is said and done. May need to go out and buy a lottery ticket after tonight. But that just had to have been the sight to behold, if ever there was any. After the way you started this race, getting involved in that incident, heading through turn number 1 to end at the top of running Masters, got to be feeling very good about that.
Yeah, it's really amazing. So happy. I feel sorry for Jeff because he didn't deserve that. He should win because he has a great pace. But well, anyway, I will take it.
I'm sure you will, and you're going to take the momentum that comes with it heading into the second race of the season at Caldwell Park. That's going to be a somewhat similar race on a newer track on the iRacing platform. How do you think that race is going to be in 1 week's time?
I didn't buy that truck yet, so I will see. I have no idea. I have a feeling that it's going to be very bad.
Well, fingers crossed, and thankfully we can get through this interview with a Masters driver without the SHIT word getting dropped like your fellow Masters driver Jorg Mani dropped earlier on. But Antonio Reese, thank you for joining us in the commentary booth.
Yeah, thank you for you guys to having me.
The Masters victory. Oh, you're all right, again. Thanks and shout outs ahead of me.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Antonio. Have a great rest of your day. Congratulations on your Masters win.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, bye-bye. See you.
That was Antonio Reese, their winner of the Masters division. And we do have a couple drivers in here. One that thought he was going to win the race and decided to finish P5 instead. Jason, what happened?
Oh my God, I thought for sure I had won. I had field right at the limits of what was possible, and so I was just I knew I couldn't really send it on Yanchi and Marco, and I wasn't close enough. So I was like, okay, well, I just have to pick up the pieces. Maybe I can pick up second. And then I saw Yanchi running wide and Marco running wide, and I was like, oh, here we go, let's go. Sent it, and then I just didn't open up the next corner enough, bomb hole, and Yanchi was able to get alongside, and then on the start-finish straight, both Yanchi and I ran out of fuel. So we were both sputtering. Yanchi was able to hold on to second by, I think it's 2 thousandths.
Yes. Yeah, it was very, very close, yes.
Yeah. So, that's That's what happened there. But yeah, that was an incredible battle at the very end. I'm glad we were able to catch Smirchio. I guess he's probably not glad that we caught him, but that really made for an amazing finish.
So, Jason, I believe after the interview from Mr. Yurgvani after the Formula Fords, shit is the word of the day here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. So I do want to tell you that you can never give me shit again for running out of fuel if you do it too.
Yeah.
Today is falling off the rails.
Technically, I still had fuel, so.
Well, okay. Now we're splitting hairs. We're splitting hairs here, Jason. We're splitting hairs.
Yeah, but yeah, I intentionally kind of fueled on the limits, or I fueled as much as I needed if I was going to fuel safe for the rest of the race, just because I knew Yanshi is way better on fuel mileage than me. So I kind of underfueled on purpose, just to make sure I was still in his draft or Marco's draft or somebody else's draft. Otherwise, it would have been too far back. So yeah, that's why I did that. It was a calculated risk that almost worked. It almost worked.
Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, my friend.
Yes,
but with that being said, Jason, congratulations. You put up an amazing show for the viewers here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Anybody you want to thank or want to shout out before we let you go?
Shout out to everybody who showed up today. I think this grid was bigger than we had all last season, so it was good to kick off. Actually, across all 3 leagues, we had a huge turnout. So thanks to everybody that showed up and raced. See y'all next week. It'll be just as cool as it was today.
Yeah, and let's talk about next week. You're going to Caldwell.
Oh yeah.
I kind of consider it Jim Brewster coined this term, and I agree with him. It's a driveway. So how are you expecting that race to go?
Honestly, I have no idea. I just bought it earlier today to set up full speed. So I'll have a better idea after tonight. But yeah, just from the videos I've seen of it so far, it looks super narrow. Yeah, I mean, it could be fun. But I feel like it's going to be very, very interesting.
Well, absolutely. Jason, congratulations on an almost P1, an almost P2, an almost wreck. I mean, there was so much going on, but congrats, Jason, and we hope to talk to you soon.
Yep, see you.
That was Jason Green, almost the winner, ended up P5. Ron, we have Joshua Wilkie and Yanshi Lin. Which one do you want? And I'll take the other one.
I feel like I'll have a quick little chat with our Formula V and SMB buddy Josh Wilkie is now joining us in the commentary booth. Now, Josh, I think before I ask you the question that I usually kick off interviews with, what's your favorite alcoholic beverage of choice, and how much of it will you be consuming after that heartbreaker towards the end of the race?
Oof, yeah, I'll probably have a beer this afternoon after that one. Really unfortunate there for sure. Honestly, all I was thinking is I'm going to get by Dan here by the line, maybe. And it started sputtering, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And it's just, I don't blame, I believe it was Simon behind me that ran into me. Not his fault at all. I just sputter, and he hit me. And unfortunately, I had to serve a drive-through because of that hit as well. It put me over the line, so it dropped me from 15th to 20th. I think I ended up in 4th. I shouldn't even be in here talking to you guys, but yeah, it was a great race. Otherwise, I had a blast out there. It was super fun. It's too bad I was leading the whole race, and then that.
Well, I'm not really sure what the next question to ask is in reference to the race that you just had. I think we'll just focus on next week at Caldwell Park. Adam just described it in the interview with Jason Green as very much being like a driveway for race cars. Have you driven around that track yet? And if you have, how do you expect that race is going to be like?
Yeah, I did some laps in it actually over week 13 there, and I believe it was the little Legends car, which was actually a blast. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. Honestly, it feels like a rally course or something, which is super fun. It's super different, another very unique track that we don't usually go to. So I believe, it's going to be really hard to pass and stuff around there. You'd be fighting the track the whole time. But it's a great track, beautiful scan. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that is going to be a roller coaster ride as well. Most of the experience I have driving around that racetrack is in project cars too, and there's a jump that I'm sure you SRF drivers are going to be having to deal with in 1 week's time.
Yep.
Now, Josh, before we let you go, we asked you this earlier, and we'll we asked you about the other thanks and shout outs. I'll ask you, about the Formula V broadcast that we're going to be a part of in 1 week's time. I know I kind of threw you into the deep end of the pool with that fantastic race that we had. Are you looking forward to that Formula V Weekend Warriors broadcast? If you want to remind the viewers where they can tune into that race as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's going to be a good one. The season is definitely stacking up to be an amazing season. We have a huge field. I think it was about 30 drivers on our first race there, and it was just one of the best few races I've ever seen. So, really looking forward to this season. Hoping more people check it out. You can check it out on Saturdays. I believe it's about 12 o'clock Pacific time, which is where I am. Not sure where everybody else is, but you can check it out right here on SMB. And me and Ron will be doing the call. I'll be doing some production, and it should be a good one.
That it will. Of course, all the fantastic Weekend Warriors action that we have here on SMB. Josh, commiserations on how this race ended, and excited to have a chat with you in the next coming days on a broadcaster that shall not be mentioned, but commiserations on how things went today, and excited to see you back out on track for the rest of the season, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks to everybody, everybody out there racing and stuff. Wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. Big bummer today that I lost it, but there's a whole season ahead of me here, so feeling pretty good in the car, and we'll see how it pans out.
Hey, man, there we go. Josh showed a whole lot of pace. Hopefully he can carry that through to the rest of the season, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
That was Joshua Wilkie there, and we've got one more driver that we've got to talk to before we get out of here this afternoon. Yanchi, you were so close, buddy. You were so close, yet so far away. Congratulations on your P2. I don't think anybody knew what was happening in the last lap. Did you know you were going to run it out of fuel, or did it just happen?
No, actually, had I kept it flat, I would have won the race. But I kind of got into Marco a little bit too much, forced him off there. It's a nothing for me. Even if this last lap is not a clean move, forcing them off track, I have to live for it.
Well, that was good sportsmanship by you, Yanchi, but you were still extremely close. We've got Caldwell Park coming up next week. Are you ready for it? Are you excited for it?
I don't have the track purchased. I'm planning on racing at the track next year when it becomes free.
Yeah, I totally understand you on that one, Yanchi. But before we let you go, man, anybody you want to thank or shout out?
Well, thank you all for broadcasting. I think this is your second season with us.
Yes.
And thanks Stevie for organizing, and thanks for Zippy sponsoring this event. I guess that'll be all.
Yeah, it was Zippy sponsoring this one, and we don't need to give him a bigger head than he already has. So thank you, Yanchi, so much. We hope to be talking to you soon.
All right. See y'all next time. Bye.
See you later, Yanchi. And real quickly, Ron, before I turn it over to you, I am getting absolutely bashed here in the YouTube chat by Guido. Just get out, get out. I don't want to talk to you anymore. You're Italian. Leave me alone. Stop making fun of me. Michelle, stop making fun of me. But seriously, guys, I love you all so much. Thank you all so much for tuning in and making this chat a lot of fun and giving us a great race and an entertaining chat to watch alongside of it. So, Ron, over to you, buddy.
Alrighty, thank you very much, Adam. Always nice to have a very well-engaged chat, and always with these Weekend Warriors broadcasts, the chat is always quite entertaining to watch, along with the racing action. And I gotta tell you, folks, I think clips of that finish are probably gonna be shown a whole lot on here on SMB throughout the rest of the season. You can also catch it on the racing line when the highlight reels are put together, so you can watch and relive the fantastic action that we had from all three of the Weekend Warriors series this past weekend. We said a few moments ago, the next race for the SRFs is going to be at Caldwell Park, and you'll be able to catch Randall McGrew on the call for that, and you'll be able to catch myself and Daniel Zippy Salmon on the call for the Formula Fords, and me and Josh Wilkie on the call for the Formula Vs as well. We've got a whole bunch of action here on SMB. Gives you more of a reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. You don't want to miss out on anything, because this racing is just absolutely fantastic. On a day where people flying the word that I still am a little bit hesitant to say on the air, in a day where a lot of stuff was flying in the air. A lot of stuff was coming out of our mouths, and a day that had some absolutely awesome action. It ends today, but it never ends here on SMB. But as for today's broadcast of the SRF Weekend Warriors, that will do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, and AOL Customer of the Year, Adam Thompson, joining me in the commentary booth, who may have to wash his mouth open with a bottle of soap after everything is said and done, I say thank you all so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you all with some more action here on SMB in the not too distant future.
I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes. There's
that was
our
that was the
Budweiser.
biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you
It
know,
is.
life sucks sometimes, and you need
Yes.
the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new
Conspiracy
content.
confirmed.
But
Yes.
but
The field in Castro's hands, and he's going immediately. Gets a good jump there over green, and he's pulling away. He is gapping early, even moving over to try to break up any sort of slipstream or help that inside line, making sure green has his hands full coming into T1.
York's chance. Did Jason give Antonio just a little bit of a slow up? It doesn't look like it. Antonio down to the inside. Hopefully going to be able to make this move. Oh, that was close.
Soto both coming very hot with a head of steam. Plava going up to try to move out of the way and give up the slipstream.
Here comes Gilliland.
Slow down. Gilliland coming in, going to try to challenge for this podium. They're going to go too wide.
Oh, no!
Oh, no! Gilliland and Plava come together. Gilliland's going to come back across the line in fourth place.
You're quite going to get there. There's a little bit of a lock up there
Oh,
from the
my
46
goodness.
car. He's gone deep.
Ooh, I don't know how everybody was able to get through that. That could have been absolute tears for that front runner.